From time to time, we'll hear about the impossible Switch port, a game that was thought to be unthinkable for fitting onto the hybrid system. And occasionally we hear about the opposite end of the spectrum where a port's just bad and people end up making fun of it online with the YouTube analysis that goes to Nintendo 64 levels for resolution and frame rate. Well, we had that back in 2018 with Ark Survival Evolved. I did a video here on the channel mostly just talking about the visuals and the struggles just to be able to play the game with the frame rate that would tank pretty consistently. Well, something interesting has happened, as it looks like the game itself has been completely overhauled, and it's now leveraging Unreal Engine 4. And in fact, Studio Wildcard reached out to me and asked if we want to do a sponsored video on this, and I figured we probably wouldn't end up doing it because obviously the reply back is, okay, but I would have to be able to say whatever I want, and they came back and said, yes, you can, whatever you need to do there for Ark. So this should be interesting. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Now, if you can't tell, a little skeptical because of what we witnessed back in 2018, but they seem pretty confident on this one. And what's happened here is they've brought in a different development studio, that being Grove Street Games. So maybe a bit of a redemption story for them and Ark all at the same time. But I do like their choice of Unreal Engine 4 since it's already proven to work fairly well with the Switch, and we know at its core it's scalable. So going forward, I'm sure updates and other things can be done to this game just based on the future of the Switch and Nintendo and all these different things. But let's get back to this version at hand. Let's first get a refresher on the 2018 version, just kind of giving you a look at it here as we wake up on the island, look around, start to gather stuff, and just kind of take in the landscape. Yeah, this version of the game, as I mentioned, got made fun of a lot, and even made some YouTubers sick, apparently. It was a struggle. Seeing the trees in the background with no defining features, just kind of being splotches on the screen, things popping in 6 inches from you, and it just being a very blurry, unstable mess. But then, fast forward to 2022, now using Unreal Engine 4, and yeah, it's actually a pretty big improvement. Now, it does go beyond just the visuals of the game. The frame rate is better as well. The controls feel more responsive. It's definitely an overhaul of the game that's had a lot of work poured into it. This wasn't just, oh, we're going to touch up that original port of the game. No, this is, let's go back to the drawing board and fix it. The load times were substantially improved here as well. This is a comparison between the two versions of the game, and you can see that the newer version will load into the island a little over 20 seconds, and the older version takes more than a minute to get going after you pick all your settings. Now, this version of the game is a free update for people who have already purchased it, which is good news because I remember with that original video I did, people were leaving comments disappointed that they had purchased it. Oh, this is a shame. Now what do I do? Fortunately, yes, it's taken some time, but you can update to this version, and it's called Ark Ultimate Survival Edition. Your save data will also carry over, and they have a couple of different modes that they will be adding in through things like an expansion pass. The first expansion pack is called Scorched Earth. It's available now, and it's much different than the island that I would consistently run through. It's dropping you right into the desert with dinosaurs all around you, and you have that sense of, I need to get moving now because I didn't see any water around me, and I got to start collecting and trying to build stuff out. So I would probably say this is one that would be a bit more on the advanced side after you kind of get your feet underneath of you in the island and get used to everything, because there's a lot going on here. You can put it on like easy and I think have a blast with it, just kind of running around, sort of making your own story with it. But when you really want to dive into the mechanics, there's quite a bit going on. Like I went through and I built a nice little house, and I had a campfire set up there with some sleeping bags. You get a saddle and you can try to tame different dinosaurs and fly or ride them around. I will admit I'm not the greatest when it comes to all these different survival games, but I think the idea of having dinosaurs sort of woven into the mix is the interesting part, although they do seem to kill me a lot in the game. And at one point, there was a massive like snake or boa constrictor that wiped me out. You just always seem to be in trouble in this game, at least the way I was playing it. I will say, though, for all of you Ark fans out there who were leaving me comments in my original video about the game itself being good, after I started to get some of the core mechanics down and figure out really how to play the game, which mostly through a lot of trial and error, I mean, I can see why people do get a kick out of this, especially if you have some friends that you can join in with and play, which actually leads me to some of the online for the game, because something else that they have here is custom server support. So after the servers went live, I fired it up, found a bunch of them immediately that were populated with different people. I think one of the servers I jumped into had like 23 or 24 people in there, and I ran around, saw some people, picked some berries, started to kind of build out a nice little area, and then someone came over and just beat me until I was unconscious. Then I woke up a few minutes later and a dinosaur showed up and killed me. That's kind of what'll happen. You'll die a lot in this game, but you respawn, you continue to go about your business. The port of the game isn't perfect. It's not like a visual masterpiece where it's 4K and all kinds of stuff like that. They're still working within the limitations of the Switch, so you do still see popping. I specifically noticed it on the ground itself, but the draw distance beyond that, I would kind of look out over the scorched earth landscape as an example, and there are dinosaurs well off into the distance kind of walking around. And there are still some blurry moments in the game, especially as you're kind of running through large landscapes. You'll see some stuff with details, level of detail kind of popping in further down. But again, compared to where they were in the original 2018 version, they've jumped at least a generation or two ahead of that N64. Another aspect that they're introducing that I think is kind of a fun idea is dinosaur discovery. It seems to be geared towards kids, but I still think just anyone can play around with this and have fun. You explore the island without violence. They've kind of removed some of the more difficult mechanics, simplified the controls, but the idea here is you go through, you unlock different dinosaurs, you learn real facts about them, you'll complete missions. Seems like a pretty fun time to go through and maybe even learn some things you didn't know before. I mean, I get it. Why people are into Ark is because you have survival mechanics with dinosaurs mixed together, and you have tribes that form and all this stuff, and dinosaurs kind of being the focal point. I think you could have a lot of fun with dinosaur discovery, and they are also selling that separately. Now, they will be having other expansion packs releasing alongside of Scorched Earth, dropping every few months now, and the Ark Ultimate Survivor Edition is currently on the Switch eShop at a price of $49.99. And it kind of makes sense why they had no issue with me saying whatever I wanted to here in the video, because there's not much other to really say about it. Comparing it to 2018 outside of it's just better basically all the way around, with the different features they're adding, the new content, and the visual upgrade that is fairly substantial, the improved frame rate, and so on. So, hey, if you have Ark Survival Evolved now, you may as well drop it into your Switch or download it again on the eShop just to check out the noticeable difference. But definitely fire it up unpatched 2018 and then take a look at this new one, because it is pretty impressive. It's certainly a night and day difference. But let me know what you guys think about this down below with Ark Ultimate Survivor Edition on the Switch, and let me know if you actually went in, updated it, and your thoughts on it. I hope we see other games that came out earlier in the Switch's life. Hey, maybe they get different upgrades as well at some point, or hey, maybe this ends up just being an outlier from Studio Wildcard wanting to make sure Ark was a bit better than the N64 release. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.